Hey, Zuli.
Hey, Rob.
How's it going?
Good, and you?
Good, good. I got a great idea for our next project.
What is it?
What if we did how we got into HR and share our stories with the HRinJeans community?
I love it.
So how did you get into HR?
That's a good question.
Very peculiar. Strategy? Leadership? I haven't felt this one in a while. Human resources!
What? That was unexpected.
Zuli, where'd you go?
That cannot be the story. Hey, welcome back. This is Zuli.
And I'm Rob, and if this is your first time, we want to say thank you for clicking on this to find out a little bit more about what we're about.
We're HRinJeans, and we're hoping that you like the content.
Yeah, we are very excited. If you've seen anything, I can't wait to talk to Zuli a little bit more about her HR story. And I gotta ask, did you really get your HR start at Hogwarts?
No, Rob. I definitely did not.
I don't know. So, just thinking about kind of where we came from, how we got into HR. I know there's a lot of you out there who may be thinking about getting into HR and maybe want to hear from a couple professionals out in the industry, how we stumbled across it, how we found this path, this direction. But I know growing up, it definitely wasn't what I had planned for myself.
Yeah, no, and I definitely wish there was something that I could have gone and done some research on. We'll tell stories on how we landed in HR. But we thought there's probably a lot of you that are starting to think okay, I've heard of HR, maybe you have someone so we thought let's put something together on, what are some of the career paths that you can go within HR and how to get started there.
So I got to ask. So, I know a lot about your background, who you are, kind of where you came from, but why HR? I'm glad you're here because, we're here. But why HR for you? Tell me a little bit about how you got into HR.
Yeah, so I wanted to be a psychologist, Rob.
Okay. I think I gotta watch out a little bit more. Maybe she's analyzing me right now.
No, but I really truly wanted to be a psychologist, and that's what I thought my plan was. So when I started college, that's what my classes were all about. But I've always worked too at the same time. So I've always been working full time while I was going to school. And so since I was 18, I was in manager roles, and I was doing hiring, selections, all of that, operations side of the business, and I really liked it. And then I found myself where I was like, wow, if I continue this path and I do my master's in psychology, I really don't have any experience, but I really truly enjoy, the people side, and what we call people side, right? Like you hear that a lot, you must really love people. It's not the case.
Zuli does not love people, is that what you're saying? Do we have it on camera?
You have it on camera. It's not always about loving the people, but it's loving what you do to help the people, right? To make people's lives better, because we have to think it's connected, they come to work to have a life, to build and to provide for the family. And so it was the same thing for me, right? I was trying to provide for my family and working and going to school. So anyway, I was faced with the question, do I do my master's in psychology and continue the psychology route, or, and kind of go down and kind of start, building my career that way, or do I continue with the career I had? And so that's how I ended up in HR, because then I said, okay, well, let me look into seeing what is this that I do that I love and enjoy. And I started doing some research online, and I ended up doing my master's in HR. And then I said, okay, let's go into HR completely. And that's kind of how I fell into it. But I don't know that if I didn't have that job, I would have ended up in HR.
It's interesting because we're both in HR. We kind of run across each other in HR careers. My story is so very different. And I think it's important as we kind of talk to everyone out there in the HR community. There's not one way to get into HR. But we want to share with you a little bit of how we got into there, and maybe how you guys can get a start in the HR world too. So for me, I went to school for business. Always thought, I was going to be an MBA maybe. Unfortunately, I didn't grow tall enough, nor was I have the best handle in basketball. So I went to school for business, and I started off early in my career running some businesses. I was out there working for some different companies, but I always found my strength in the strategy part, the people part, the leadership, the development, and found myself very comfortable in those stages of the business and found that not only was I good at it, but I loved it. If I could spend my time in those areas all day, that's where I'd be. I'll be honest, I wasn't the best at folding clothes or the best merchant that was out there, but if you wanted to sit down and we wanted to talk business strategy, we wanted to talk numbers, we wanted to talk planning out future succession planning, that's where I was. And I didn't even really know that that was HR at the time. I was so young in my career. And then throughout some different opportunities, I found a way to get into HR, kind of by accident. I met this gentleman at one of my companies early on, and we had some conversations back and forth. And he kind of told me, he said, "Listen, he's like, you would fit really good into this HR mold." And there was an opportunity that came up, and it was called a recruiter trainer for the organization. And I was like, "Wow, this might be something good for me. It sounds fun. It sounds like something I would like." And for the organization, it was about 100 locations throughout the Northeast, and spent a lot of time just traveling and learning HR. Now, I had some background, I had some deep training, some deep knowledge, so I didn't come into it completely blind, but I made sure to keep myself educated. For those who know anything about HR or what the industry is, it's changing all the time. So I had to find ways to be adaptive, had to find ways to stay current. I was servicing multiple states, and there was different laws and different things, but that was the stuff I loved to do. So from that perspective, I said, this is where I want to be. And really throughout my career from that point, I just found myself advancing in HR into different skill sets, all the way from that business partner to that manager, to that specialist, to that director role, and really finding different ways to grow and show opportunity in things that I wanted to do. So that's kind of how I fell into HR. So it wasn't because of my love of people, it wasn't because I was going to school for psychology. It was just because naturally this is what I love to do. And I think if you listen to your story, it's very similar.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be different for all of you guys too. If you end up in HR, if you're currently in HR, because there's just I feel like it's an open field. And so you can go into really what you love. And that's what I try to always talk to people. It's like, what is it that you love about HR? Because you can go from the generalist, right, the HR business partner, to a really specialty area too as well. So if you love compensation, there's a whole career path in compensation. If you love recruiting and you have a passion for that, I think you have to have a passion for recruiting.
I think you do. Absolutely you do. It is not something that everyone loves to do, for sure.
Yeah, but those who do, they love it. They enjoy it, right? It's like, it's fun for them. So you really have to try to find that. So let's say you did decide to go into HR, then you have to then try and see what works for you and what do you love. Is it benefits? Maybe it's benefits. I don't think I ever, find myself in benefits, but there's just so much options.
There really is. You could sit at a desk, you could be out in the field, you could be working, remotely, you could be working, getting on a plane every day and going to a different part of the country, a different part of the world. So there's definitely a lot of opportunity in HR. But I think the similarities between our stories, we both fell into it, and we both loved it. We both knew right away. I don't want to do anything else for the rest of my career other than HR in some capacity. And, it's kind of funny when you think about what I thought as a child versus where I am today.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I don't think if anyone would have asked me, what are you going to grow up to be? And I'm going to be like, an HR professional.
I still got a jump shot, by the way. So yeah, that's the first thing we want to talk about. So you can kind of hear our background, kind of why HR for us. And, next we kind of want to talk about what is it really like? Maybe some of those myth busters, some of those things out there that Zuli kind of shed some light on it. It's not all about loving people. People's a big piece of it, but you don't get into HR because you're going to be, helping people to the extent that some people think that you are.
So what is it for you, Rob? What is it that you feel like it's your purpose for HR and why you enjoy it so much?
Man, so if I think about why HR, I think it has to come down to I love strategy. I love business. I love being able to influence. I love being able to make a difference to an organization, but not just at a singular level. So when you think about those generalist positions, I like something that's a little bit more global, something that touches multiple facets of the organization. And then though it's not as quick as, sometimes the operations side where you see from point A to point B so quickly, the long-term effect you can have on not just one, not just 10, 100 plus, 1,000 plus people, it really feels good, and it feels like something that I enjoy doing. How about yourself?
I think it's similar. I think that as I've gone from position to position, it's different too. Like it changes. I know that when I was in a location and you were able to impact, you knew exactly who you were impacting. So like you knew them. You knew what that promotion meant to them, and it was really cool to be able to impact people and know the impact that you were making. I think when you go up higher and then you have a more global impact, and you might not know who you're helping, but you're helping a lot more people. So it becomes about that, right? So as you're opening and you're thinking about how you're helping the business, you're also thinking about those opportunities that are opening up for others, and now you're able to impact, like you mentioned, like just maybe hundreds, thousands of people and change their lifestyle. I think that's the biggest, maybe because I'm an immigrant. But for me to think that, you can have organizations be successful and they're successful because you open up for people the opportunity to grow within that organization and what they can do for the organization, but also what you're doing for them. You can change people's lifestyles.
Absolutely. And you can see it each and every day. I think that's so important. I think the power in HR of your ability to be able to change someone's life is, it's understated. For sure, especially if you're out there watching The Office and you're seeing Toby. I don't think he changed very many people's lives at all. But we're going to have another segment just talking about HR in the real world and popular culture and what that looks like. So if you're interested in hearing more about that, check that out, later content that we'll have. But right now, we'd love to hear some of your feedback. What got you into HR? What's your passion? What's your drive? And if you're not in the HR field yet, why do you want to get into HR? Put them down in the comments. We'd love to hear. We'd love to interact with you. Might spark some ideas for a future broadcast, or we might be able to just reach out to you individually and just hear some of your thoughts and kind of share that as a follow-up to this piece for sure.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned something, and I want to touch back on it, is on the keeping up with HR, because it definitely has changed and has evolved throughout the years. And just because you finished a degree or you got a certification doesn't mean you're done. If you think about it from a doctor's perspective, right? Doctors and nurses have to continue to make sure they research and they're up to date what they need. So this is very similar. So also, if you have any tips, any guidance that you want to kind of share with the community on how you keep up with your HR knowledge and up to date with the changes, let us know as well.
Absolutely. If there's anything you want to hear more about, let us know too. So kind of back to HR, we talked a little bit about how we fell into HR. I'd love to talk about some of the myths, like in some of the things we didn't expect once we got into the HR field and what that looks like. So for me, you heard what I loved. Now I'm going to share with you what I hate. So, Zuli probably knows already, but when it comes to useless spreadsheets or data being collected that's just to be collected, that's not for me. So I'm someone who, likes to have a purpose, or why are we taking a look at this? What's the end result? What's the ROI? But there's times in the HR field where you're just gathering data. And there's some specialty versions of HR where you might find yourself that that's all you do. And if you love it, perfect. Do it. Because I don't want to. So take those jobs, I'll have these jobs, and we'll be good to go. But in all fairness, there is probably more paperwork in the field of HR than most people would expect. From documenting conversations that you have to ensuring that you're in compliance, that you're following up correctly. That's something that you have to be prepared for too. As much as it is a people relations business, it's also a business that is one that's a business where we're helping to guide, protect the organizations that we help to support. So, what about you, Zuli? What surprised you in your journey in HR thus far?
I think, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before about the different, areas and what you love and enjoy. I'll be honest, associate relations not my piece. I definitely don't love it. I'll do it, do a good job at it.
You're very good at it. She is very good at it, folks. Don't let her talk you down. She is very, very good at it.
But it's just not something that, I'm passionate about the investigation piece of it. I think there's other people that would love it and enjoy it and do it. Like you, I love the business strategy side of it. The business partner, being a business partner and kind of really helping the organization move along, development, training. But associate relations is definitely, not one that I could see myself continue to be in.
Yeah, and I don't know that I'd ever want to be just associate relations, because for those of you who've worked in associate relations, and some of you aspire to work in associate relations, it's a pretty rewarding field. But 9 times out of 10, when your phone rings, it's someone telling you about the worst thing that's happened to them in their life, or at least recently. So be prepared for that in that industry, and I've spent a lot of time in that associate relations space, and whether it's conducting investigations, Wicklander training, different things that I've done there. So I've also been very good at it, and I enjoy it in pieces, but not something that I'd want to do solely. So definitely something to really kind of weigh as you're thinking about different portions of HRs. All right, so you heard a little bit about how we got into HR, what we love about it, what we don't really love about it. For you, it might be a bit different, but we want to take this last few minutes and just talk about HR in everyday life. Does it change you as a person? What does that look like as you're going to the grocery store, going out to eat, going out to dinner? What kind of sparked this for me was I was recently watching Michael Jordan documentary, highly recommended, Last Dance, and they talked about how Michael Jordan was the best basketball player ever because he could turn it on and off whenever he wanted to, but he never turned it off. He was always on. And I'd like to think a little bit about, from an HR professional standpoint, I have a little bit of that in me, if nothing else, from characteristics of Michael Jordan. So do you find yourself, everyday life, what does that look like? HR Zuli outside of work.
Yeah, I definitely do. I think, but there's a few things that carry with you. I think about, as I go to stores, like I'll say hello to people, and just because we're so comfortable, we do it on our, day to day. So it just kind of follows, and that kind of goes along too when I go to restaurants and I'm looking at staffing.
So let me stop. So you go to stores, you say hello to people. So when you go to those sections in the newspaper that say misconnections, it's like all these people saying, I was walking around my local grocery store, that this young woman with blonde hair came by and she said hi to me. They're all looking for you.
I don't know that that's true, but
if you are out there.
But I might say hello to you, and it might not mean that I know you. It might just be part of I guess, our job, right? Like, we just kind of go say hello, want to meet people. But also when I was going back to the restaurants, whenever we go out to eat, I'm always looking at the employee morale, the engagement, staffing. How do they look? Like, are they taking long? If they're taking long, I start looking at seeing, how the employees are feeling.
When do you judge quality of food?
I don't know that I judge the quality of food, but
it's only a restaurant.
But I do judge the service, right? And I start thinking about who's the owner, like how does the management, do I see management around, right? And it's funny because sometimes I'll have these conversations and my husband would be like, here we go, HR Zuli. He has this little voice for me. How about you, Rob?
Oh my God. So the HR Rob, so a couple of things, right? So my poor wife, and maybe if you're watching this and you're someone's spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend who's thinking about getting an HR, it might be time, if you really want that sensitive person at home, delete this video, don't show it to them, get them out of the HR field, because there's too many times at home, my wife will come home, have a bad day, and as a good husband, I should sit back and be like, I'm so sorry to hear that, I'm so sorry that happened. But me being a proactive business solution finder, I'm like, well, you could have done this differently. Or you have to take some ownership in this too. And for those of you out there, it doesn't go over very well. So sorry out there to my beautiful wife. I'm very sorry for all those opportunities that I've missed to be that sensitive husband, but I can't turn it off. Just like Michael Jordan, but in the world of HR. And there's other stuff too. So just to share a little bit of insight, and recently, so if you're watching this video, we're not too far out from Christmas break. So we're sitting around at the table, family around, and what would you know? Part of my HR training is Wicklander training. We talked about investigations before. So we were trying at the table to show them my skill set to tell if someone could lie. Tell me, a couple things I could get, see what their behavioral norm looked like. But that's it, you lied there. And I don't know that that's a non-HR type game, like where you sit around the table at Christmas time.
Were you the only one trying to guess if they were lying, or did
Yes.
the other ones try?
Yes, and then we played a game a little bit later by the name of, I think it was called Sheriff Anonymous, where, not to get too much into detail, but being able to tell someone's lying played a big effect in it. We played it twice at one place. So, just a little bit of that, and then other little stuff. So, plane trip recently. I'm on the plane, just a little bored, so I'm looking on my iPhone in airplane mode, and I notice this game. I didn't download it, 3 kids, everything kind of connects. And I click on it, and you're a judge. The first thing that it asks you to do is judge if someone's guilty or innocent. You just get this line of people. You got to swipe left or right if they're guilty or innocent. First thing I thought was, is this unconscious bias?
I was just gonna say that. That's the only thing I was thinking there.
There was a little bit more to it, and as I figured out how to play the game, to give you a little bit of clues to figure it out. But there was all different races, sizes, people, and I'm like, oh boy,
what kind of game?
I was like, what are we teaching our children today?
Yeah.
But I think that's the HR mentality, the HR mindset. You're gonna find things in your personal life, just like if you were a professional athlete, a newscaster, just somebody who every day, is a gym trainer. You're gonna feel this stuff in your everyday life. So be prepared for it. And I think that goes back to what we talked about, why we get into HR, passion behind it. So as we're starting to see these things, whether it's out in the world, whether it's something that we see in a video game, a television show, a restaurant, we're able to identify that, but take joy in just really kind of sizing it up.
Yeah, and I think people talk about all the time about find what you love, find your passion. It's not always going to be, oh my gosh, I love this and I am enjoying it. But for the most of the part, you should be enjoying what you love. So if you're trying to decide, do I get into HR, do I not? I think finding jobs like an HR coordinator, because maybe it's not where you're going to end up, but at least it will give you insight to the other roles that are in that organization of HR. I think would be a good start if you kind of asking for a little bit of advice there.
And regardless of what month, what year you're watching this, take a look at our resolution video, because I think there's some good tips and pointers if you're really trying to switch careers or try a different path in HR, or just get into it, whether it's through a vision board or making a resolution or making a pact. So we have that available. We'll put the link down in the description here if it's something you guys want to check out as well. But hope you found this content very valuable today. We want to hear from you. Check us out on all of our social media channels. Don't forget to subscribe. See you real soon.
Nos vemos pronto.
I was going to text you.